The UN has completed an investigation into UNRWA after allegations of staff involvement in the October 7 attack. What did it find?
Well, the investigation to begin with was very limited because it only looked at those who are directly paid salaries by UNWRA, and I believe it found that about 9 of those who are directly paid by UNWRA participated in the October 7th invasion and massacre. But a real investigation into UNRWA's role and complicity in the attack and in terrorism in general would have looked at how many of the perpetrators were educated by UNRWA paid teachers to believe that Israel should not exist and the lethal ideology of return. How many of them were falsely registered by UNRWA as refugees, even though they're not refugees by any international standard? How many of them lived in neighborhoods that are misnamed refugee camps because no one there is a refugee and they're not camps? If the investigation had looked into the entire infrastructure of UNRWA, the registration, the education, they would have found that everyone who participated in the massacre was in some way or form abetted, encouraged by UNRWA to believe in the lethal ideology of return, which was always a very brutal ideology, and to believe that they should dedicate and devote their lives to the non-existence of a sovereign Jewish state in any borders, otherwise known as from the river to the sea. That's what a true investigation should have done. And what UNRWA is doing is they're behaving a bit like the captain from Casablanca. They're behaving as if they're shocked, just shocked, that this is happening in their midst, even though, again, they are complicit through and through. UNRWA is essentially the ideological backbone of the entire Palestinian Arab struggle for 75 years now against a Jewish state in any borders. So it's important for them to pretend that this is just something that happened on the fringes. But this is not a bug in UNRWA, it's feature. This is what the organization exists for. It exists for the singular purpose of funding the Palestinians while they continue to violently seek the non-existence of Israel.
Yeah, it's cultural and it's entrenched. That's certainly what we've learned. Now, Hamas is reporting its guards killed an Israeli hostage and critically wounded 2 others, but efforts were underway to save their lives. Is this report true, and is Hamas allegedly saving them just to continue using them as bait?
It's tough to know at which point what is true about the hostages. The one thing we know for sure is that they invaded, kidnapped people from their beds on a Shabbat, on a Saturday morning. And what I am still horrified 10 months after is that so many in the world find it legitimate that this is a negotiation situation. Rather than making it clear that Israel owes Hamas absolutely nothing, and that Hamas needs to release the hostages, and that it should face any kind of sanction until it releases them. The fact that Egypt and Qatar are supposedly in negotiations, Qatar is hosting the heads of Hamas. Israel would not have had to kill one of them in Iran if they had not been so coddled and protected in Qatar, including by Western governments. Egypt pretends as if it has no border with Gaza. This war could have been over in a week or two if Egypt had allowed, according to international law, to create temporary refugee camps on its side, and Israel could have cleared Gaza and the hundreds of miles of tunnels. The world, the international organizations should have made it clear that you cannot just invade a country across a border, kidnap people from their beds, hundreds, families, and then it's a negotiation situation where Israel needs to give up some more. It should have never been, and still shouldn't be a negotiation situation. It should be clear that Israel owes Hamas nothing, and the pressure should be only on the Palestinians to release the hostages.
Yeah. What do you make of Western countries creating special pathways for Palestinian refugees?
That would be good. Anything that would allow people to even temporarily, leave Gaza now, so that the problem that Gaza for years now, because it's been more important for Palestinians since Israel completely left Gaza in 2005, no civilians, no military, no graves, the border with Egypt was free. Ever since Israel left, the Palestinians have chosen, because of their obsession with from the river to the sea, they have chosen to weaponize the entire urban landscape of Gaza rather than turn it into the Dubai of the Levant, rather than build something. So the entire Gaza Strip is a single, integrated, weaponized landscape with hundreds of miles of kilometers of tunnels, hundreds of shafts, connecting every mosque, every school, every home. So if it would have been possible to have the population temporarily out of Gaza so that the entire weaponization of the Strip could be undone, the war could have been much sooner and with much less suffering for all.
Very, very true. Dr. Wilf, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.